Okay, we begin today. Welcome back. I hope we had a great weekend. You guys hopefully have homework to turn in today. That goes right in the red folder. Next class, I will have it graded and you will retrieve it from the red folder. All right, that's how we'll hand papers back and forth. Don't forget to sign in with the time that you got here today, again, on the red folder. If you don't have homework because you didn't know what the assignment was, then ask me or ask one of your neighbors. I always have a grace period on the homework because it seems kind of funny to me to assign the homework Wednesday, which is when we had class, and now it's due Monday. That's fine. But tonight's homework is assigned Monday. You guys only have 2 days now, just by the way the course is designed. So I always want you to have a week for the homework assignments. So even if you didn't get the homework assignment done that I assigned Wednesday, I will take it this coming Wednesday. Again, you just throw it right in the folder. All right? Tonight's homework, if you're on the ball, turn it in to me Wednesday. But if you need a week, hand it to me next Monday. Okay? So every homework assignment, you'll have 1 week to submit it to me. All right? Okay, one quick announcement. It's not about this class, but Student Life is now processing GCC ID cards. This is completely free to you, and it's a good thing to have. You can just stop by the Student Life office. It's on the second floor in the core, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. Core 216. You don't need to make an appointment, okay? So if you don't have an ID card, get it done. Anytime this week, next week is fine, but head over to the Student Life office. Any questions about that? Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is our class Moodle site. So let's take a quick look at the class Moodle site. And I will tell you about some resources that you have at your disposal. So first of all, if you don't know how to log into Moodle, just ask me right after class and I will tell you. But if you log into Moodle into our site here, you will see this setup. There's a syllabus and the Word document that we're working off of. It's there. I want to point to 2 things today. Number 1, if you go into the class notes folder and you click on packet 1, you will see a few documents listed. And inside of packet 1, there will be a PDF. There it goes. So there's the blank Word document we're working off of, also available as a PDF if that's easier for you. But I want to point to this 3rd document. It says Ian's 117 class notes filled in, updated September 4. That was the class that we had the other day. I already downloaded that PDF from that website. It's the packet that you have already. But the nice thing about this PDF is that it's filled in with exactly what we wrote up on the board on Wednesday. All right, so full color solutions, everything that I write on this smartboard, you will have in PDF form within like an hour of the end of class. Okay, so you should not feel obligated to write down every single thing that I write. You have access to it. All right, questions on that? I'll do my best to post that within an hour of the end of each class. Another thing that you will find on our Moodle site here, references videos. So in our first class, somebody asked why I was wearing this Bluetooth, and so that I can record. So if you scroll down here to this last one, you will see that there's a playlist for Caitlin and also a playlist for me. And if you click on the playlist for me, it should open up YouTube at some point. Okay, it should open up in YouTube, and there it goes. And inside of YouTube, you will find a very sad little playlist with just 1 video. That's because we've only had 1 class. But if you click on that video right there, you will see me writing everything on the smartboard just like I did in real time on Wednesday, and you will hear everything that I said in real time on Wednesday. So if you missed something in class and you're too shy to ask a question, this is a good place to check it out. If you just want to see things a second time, that's great. If you missed a class, this isn't a substitute for being here, but it's as good as we're going to get. And again, within a few minutes after class, I should have the next video, today's video, posted here. Now, you don't have to go into Moodle in order to access this. If you happen to know the title, and the videos always have the same format for the titles. For me, the format is 117, that's this class, 2013, September, and then 4th. That was the day for our first class. Today's video is going to look exactly like that title, except it will be September 9th, all right? September is spelled all the way out. Notice there is a 0 in front of that 4. It's always a 2-digit day. If you feel like searching for YouTube videos this way, make a quick note right now. You can write down the format. It's not going to appear anyplace else, all right? Any questions on the videos? Okay. Last thing before we jump to the packet is our calendar. We'll look at this at the start of every class. Last class, we introduced voting, and we talked about two different ways to count the votes, something called plurality, where you only look at first place votes, and something called the boredom method, which involves calculating points based on first place votes, second place votes, etc. All right, that's what we did last time. Today, we talk more about voting, and we have two different vote counting methods. We've already seen two, plurality and borda. Sometimes they give different winners. Today we're going to see two more. That'll bring us to a total of 4. That's it for the whole semester. We're just learning these 4. Also today we're going to do, for the folks that got their ballot to me on time, you guys are going to weigh in and help your classmates out in terms of the voting project. I am going to assign the voting project next time. So at the moment you don't even know what it is, but we will talk about it next time. Any questions on the calendar? Okay, so then we're here on page 16. And the last thing before we jump in, I will say that the two vote counting methods that we talk about today, I think are more complicated than the two that we talked about first class, all right? So if it takes a little bit more time for you guys to process through, work your way through in your mind these two methods, it's probably just because they're harder than the first two that we saw, all right? Okay, can we go back to Stephen? Can you read number 1 for us, please? Sam, are you ready? Go ahead. Our third. 16. It's just below the top. Okay, thank you. So here's the process. Those are the names of the process. Here's the process. Voters fill out a preference ballot one time, just like we did with the ice cream where you guys ranked vanilla first, strawberry second, chocolate third. Fill out the preference ballot once. If one candidate has a majority of first place votes, and I'm highlighting right now that the only thing we are looking at this moment is first place votes, then they win, the election is over. If one candidate has a majority of first place votes, that's the end of the game. Does majority mean more than anyone else or more than half? More than half, right? Somebody's going to have more than anybody else, but more than half is what we want, stronger. But if nobody has a majority, then we move on to this second round. You eliminate the candidate with the least number of first place votes. That's the important step. Whoever has the fewest number of first place votes, you eliminate them. When you eliminate them, well, the first place votes that they had are going to get redistributed. They're going to go somewhere else. Chad, you're shaking your head. What's the problem?
Oh, just this method is clear.
Why is that?
If you take the vote and you move it up to the next first. So the one from C, you move it up to the fourth to B.
Which one are you looking at? Right over here? Yeah. Yeah. So let's take a look at what Chad's looking at.
Well, whatever the candidate has, at least the next first candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, even though one candidate have the most first place votes, by this process of elimination, you know, could be the second or third place person is going to end up.
It could be.
And you keep passing on.
It could be. So let's take a look at what Chad's talking about. We're going to do this example all the way out in all the detail. But suppose that C gets eliminated because they have the fewest first place votes. I'm not saying they do, but just suppose they do. When C gets eliminated, well, we can't just ignore the wishes of these 10 people, right? C isn't going to win, and that was their top choice. But they had a second choice. Their second choice was B. And so those 10 people, once they say, okay, I guess C isn't going to win, who are they going to send their votes to? They're going to send it to B, right? Their second favorite person. And now all of a sudden B has 10 more first place votes. Yes? So the votes just get redistributed. First place votes only, but when you cross somebody off, you got to redistribute those votes. Okay, so moving on. After you redistribute those votes, if one candidate has a majority of first place votes, that's the end of the game, they win. If not, you repeat. Eliminate the candidate with the least number of first place votes, shuffle everybody up, etc. Okay, so before we do this example, we're going to Sam. Can you read number 2, please? Thank you. Griffin, 3. Okay, so we've seen this preference schedule already. It's the same. Round one, tally the first place votes for each candidate. Okay, let's give it a shot. So we need A, B, C, and D. First place votes only. How many first place votes does A have? 14. How many first place votes does B have? It's 4. C is a little bit more complicated because C appears in 2 columns. How many first place votes do they have? 11. And then D only appears once with how many? 8. Now, before we start eliminating, if we're going to eliminate the person with the fewest number of first place votes, who are we eliminating? B. But don't waste your time eliminating until you check the condition that was in this first step. Here we go. If one candidate already has a majority, you win. You get to stop playing this game. You don't need to just automatically eliminate. You look for a majority first. I can't tell whether or not there's a majority by looking at these numbers until I know what other number is the total. I don't know what a majority is until I know what a total is. So let's go ahead and calculate the total. 1 vote for 37. Can anybody else confirm that? Yep, 37. So that's the total, which means a majority. We need more than half. Half is 18.5. We need more. 19. Good. So anybody with 19 or more has a majority and they win. Do we have a majority in this first round? No. Highest total here is 14. Okay, so we got to keep going here. It says now that we are going to eliminate the candidate with the fewest number of first place votes. You guys already told me we are eliminating who? Eliminate B. Okay, I'm going to show you a real common wrong way to answer this here. We're recounting the votes, so you can copy this part, A, C, and D. We just have to recount the votes. So if B goes away, then these 4 votes aren't B's anymore. And so don't write this because it's wrong, but it's real easy to say, okay, B is gone, A has 14, C has 11, D has 8. That's not right, but we could eliminate the person with the fewest number of votes. Who goes away? In this next row, who has the fewest number of first place votes? D. And then we can eliminate the person with the fewest number after that, which is who? C. And who wins? A. If you just keep crossing off the first place votes and copying the numbers down, could we have known that A was going to win from the beginning? Yeah, they have the most. That's called the plurality method. So you got to do something different. You can't just write down the same numbers. And the different thing is what Chad was talking about at the moment. If we have 14, 11, and 8 people, we have not counted to 37. We haven't counted everybody yet. So sure, those 4 people that really liked B aren't going to be super happy, but they like somebody second best. And so D gets those votes. So D doesn't actually have 8. How many does D have? D has 12. Do you see it? That's the only tricky thing in this whole process, is when you eliminate somebody, those first place votes get pushed to their next best choice. And as a quick check, if you add 14 and 11 and 12, we get 37. Has to be 37 at every moment. If you get something less than 37, you made a mistake. Okay, again, how much is a majority? 19. Does anybody have a majority? No. So we got to keep going, but it's always worth asking because as soon as you got a majority, you stop. Okay, who has the fewest number of first place votes now? C, which is not what you guys would have told me before because a second ago, this said 8, and who had the fewest number at that moment? It was D. But D just got a little bit stronger as soon as B went away. So the fewest number of first place votes is here at 11. So now we eliminate C. And when we eliminate C, We got to give their votes to somebody else. So we're crossing off C here, and we're crossing off C here. Things get tricky now. Those 10 votes, who do they go to? They now go to, is it B? No, because B has already been eliminated. So maybe I can cross B off here in red. Those votes actually go over to D. And how about in the last column? Who gets that one vote? Is also D. So we're going to give D that one as well. Everybody see what happened? That first column is the tricky one. You give it to the next best candidate who's still alive. Candidate B had already been eliminated, so they're gone. Okay, so recalculating. Might be easier just to start from scratch and calculate from what's up there in the table. How many votes does A have now? A still has 14. A didn't gain anything. But D got, yeah, D got everything else. Let's see, so yeah, D gained 11 votes there, which brings him up to 23. As a quick check, how much do you get when you add those two numbers? 37, it's gotta be. And now when you're down to two candidates, unless it's a tie, somebody's gonna have a majority. Who has a majority in this case? Is D. D wins. Questions on that? It's definitely more complicated than the two methods we saw last class. Okay, number 4. Griffin, did you read already? Casey, number 4. Okay, so remember, complete ranking just means not only the winner, but also the second place candidate and the third place and the fourth place. So complete ranking, who is our winner? Is D, that's easy enough. Who is the second finishing candidate? It's A, it's the other finalist there, right? A didn't win, but A made it to the final round, so it seems reasonable that A would be second. And then C, yeah, you're just kind of working backwards in the opposite the order they were eliminated. So C, and then the first person eliminated was B, so B has to be last when we do the complete ranking. Does that make sense? Okay, and let's just dissect the name of this method. It is called plurality with elimination. Plurality because we're only looking at which votes? First place votes. That's what plurality means. With elimination because you're eliminating candidates that have the fewest number of first place votes. Okay, next page. Number 5, Evan. Okay, so go back to the notes from the previous class. We've already done this preference schedule 2 different times. We did plurality and we did Borda. Can anybody find it? Who was the plurality winner? It was A. A had the most number of first place votes at the start. That was it. But when we did Borda, who was the winner? Was it C?
B.
B was our winner.
Yeah.
When we did the Borda method. Is that right?
Yeah.
And now when we did plurality with elimination, who was the winner of the one we just did? It was D. Same exact vote, 3 different winners, depending on how you count the vote. I'm not here arguing the merits of one over the other, although I will argue the merits of one over the other next class. But I'm just here to say that how you count the votes can have a dramatic impact on who wins, right? So it's not as straightforward as just pick who you think is the best and that's it. There are other ways to find a winner. Okay, moving on to 6, Ed. Okay, so here's the method. Each voter fills out a preference ballot just once, same as usual. And as the name suggests, we compare every pair of candidates. Every 2 candidates in this election are going to get paired up in a head-to-head competition. For each head-to-head comparison, the winning candidate gets 1 point. Losing candidate gets 0. If it happens there's a tie, they each get half a point. All the points are tallied up at the end, and the candidate with the most points is declared the winner. This is a complicated method. Here's the math club preference schedule again. same numbers as before. First thing we need to do is figure out how many voters there are. Well, we did this already. How many? Okay, so it's 37 altogether. That number is going to help us check our work as we go through. So B says, let's determine the election using the method of pairwise comparisons. We begin by listing all of the possible matchups. So all the possible ways that these competitors can be faced off head to head. We could have A versus B. We could have A versus C. We could have A versus D. What else could we have? We could have B versus C. Is there a need to put B versus A? No, we've already got A versus B. So B versus C. What else isn't here yet? Is B versus D. C versus D. Any more? That's everything. That's every possible way to pair up two of these candidates. A, B, C, and D. That's all of them. Okay, so down here, number 2. Let's examine our first matchup, A versus B. Every voter has a preference between A and B. Our job is to figure out who the voters in each column prefer. This is where it gets complicated for a lot of people. Okay, the first column is pretty easy. Do those voters prefer A or B? A. So I'm going to highlight A in yellow. In fact, I'm going to highlight A in yellow everywhere. And then I'm going to highlight B in green everywhere. I don't know how you're going to do this on your notebook, but it should be easy to look at up here and see what's going on. You could put squares around A's and circles around B's. I don't know. So, okay, so in the first column again, who do the voters prefer, A or B? Definitely A. So I'm going to highlight those 14 in yellow. A wins those 14. In the next column, right, now listen to this question carefully before you answer. Who's their first choice? Is C, right? Their first choice is C. But C is not in this picture. We are looking only at A versus B. Between A and B, who do these folks prefer? They prefer B. They have B ranked higher than A, yes? It's really easy to ignore that column and say, well, A or B, they don't want either of them. They want C. But they do have a preference, and they have told you what the preference is in this ballot. How about the third column? Who do they prefer between A and B? They prefer B. You look anywhere, I mean, these people pretty much hate both A and B. They hate B slightly less than they hate A, but they still have a preference, and it's there, right? Do we see? All you got to do is find who's higher between the two letters we're looking at. Out of A and B, definitely they prefer B. Next column. Who do they prefer? Definitely, I mean, they really like B, so that's great. Again, these guys don't like A or B, but who do they prefer? They prefer B. So if we look at the top now, we can start counting. Everybody counts someplace. How many people prefer A? 14. And then if you add all of those green numbers there, it's 23. Add all those green numbers, we get 23. And as a check, what do you get when you add 14 and 23? 37. Here's the very common wrong way to do this. We did it the right way. The common wrong way is to say, okay, these 10 people, who do they want the best? They want C. So they don't really want A or B, so we don't count them. And that's not true. How about those 8 people? Who do they want the best? D. So let's not count them because they don't want A or B. How about those 4 people? They want B. That's good. How about that one person? Really like C. And so it's very tempting to say, how many votes does A have? 14. And how many for B? Is 4. And you can just write 14 versus 4. But if you do that, all you're doing is plurality. All you're looking at is first place votes. And you'll get exactly the same winner as you got for the plurality method. So we got to do something different. And it is very tempting, because this is how you have grown up here in the US, to think only pick your top choice and that's all that matters. It's very easy to forget to look elsewhere in this table. Okay, with your neighbors, can you guys do A versus C and then proceed? As soon as you finish A versus C, check your answers with your neighbors and help each other out. Okay, so we've got our comparisons, a lot of work. We still haven't figured out who the winner is, though. What we need to do is think about this business with the points. So right off the top of the screen there, again, it said every time somebody wins one of these head-to-head matchups, they get a point. If they lose, they get 0 points. If there's a tie, which there aren't any here, they would each get half a point. So what I'm going to do is circle the candidate that won each of these head-to-head comparisons. Between A and B, who was the winner? B. Between A and C, who was the winner? C. Between A and D, who was the winner? D. In fact, that was pretty easy once you saw that A was in the bottom of everybody except for that first column. Everybody hates A except for those 14 people. So they'd rather have anybody else. So that's why that was the same number every time. B and C was very close. Who won? C. B and D, not so close, is B. And then C and D is C. So then over here, we're going to keep track of our points. Where are we here? Right. So A, B, C, and D. We're just going to award points based on how many times they each won. How many times did A win? None. How about B? Is twice. You can see the first one and then the middle on the last column. So you know what, here's a suggestion that I make. Is just do them in order and then award points with like tally marks. So the first point goes to B, so there's one for B. Second point goes to C. Next one goes to D. Next one is C again. So here's where the tally marks make it easy to keep track. B, and then C. Whoever has the most points wins. Who won? C. C has 3 points. Okay, so that's the final step with the points. Okay, so all this is written up down here, but we can run down and actually find the winner. So we said the winner is C, no problem. But we can also do the complete ranking. That's the last thing on this page. So complete ranking. Who had the most points? C. Who had the second most points is B, third most, D, and fourth most, A. So C, B, D, A is the complete ranking. Okay, any questions on the method of pairwise comparisons? Okay, next page. Number 8, I think our reader is Ed. Did you read? Mary? Number 8, please. Yeah, so the next question says, how many comparisons are required if there are 3 candidates or 4 or 10, or math folks like to generalize and we come up with these variables, n candidates. Okay, we just did 4 candidates. How many comparisons were there? 6. We had 6 head-to-head things that we had to do. So we'll just write our answer here. We had 6. As a real quick check, did you see those 6 points when we did our tallies? Just look at the tallies again. 0 points, 2 points, 3 point, and 1, right? All together is 6, so that's a good check. If there were 3 candidates, for example, A and B and C, let's just list what the head-to-heads would be. A versus B, A versus C, B versus C. Any more? No. So 3 candidates. How many comparisons? 3. So far, so good. Now we get to 10. Trust me when I say you do not want to list all the different comparisons when there are 10 different candidates, right? We don't want to do that. Okay, so there's got to be some mathy way that we can kind of just jump to the answer here. So let's figure this out. Suppose that we look at, let's see, so letters are the first 10 letters. A, B, C, D, E, that's 5. F, G, H, I, J. Somebody double check, is that 10 letters? Okay, so if we are looking at listing, but we're not going to list all of them, we need to compare A and B, A and C, A and D, everybody, right? All the way up to A versus J. How many is that? There are 10 letters, but how many comparisons is that? 9, because A didn't go against A, right? A versus the other 9 people. So the answer here is definitely going to be 9 comparisons plus, and then we got to do more. Okay, moving on to B. Where do I start? B versus who? B versus C. We don't need to go there. B versus C, B versus D, B versus everybody to the end. How many is that? That's 8. And do we believe that there's only 2 numbers, but do we buy into this pattern already? Right, because C is going to go against everybody. So plus 7, plus 6, plus all the way down. Well, we'll just write it. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. What is that last 1 going to be? I versus j, right? When we get to I, there's only going to be 1 left. Okay, it's a little bit tedious to do this calculation by hand or on the calculator, but it's not as bad as writing out everything, right? Taylor? It's close to that. So Taylor suggests this, n minus 1, and then a factorial. So n minus 1, where's that coming from, Taylor? That's right. Yeah, so if 10 is the number of candidates, it doesn't start with 10, it starts with 9. So I like this idea of subtracting 1. N minus 1 with an exclamation point actually means not add all of these numbers down to 1, but multiply the numbers down to 1. So it's exactly the right idea, but we don't need multiply, we need add. Anybody have a number for us, by the way? 45 is good. Okay, so now I'm going to show you that there actually is a very compact way to get this number without even going through that calculation. So here it is. N times n minus 1 divided by 2. That's the magical formula. N times n minus 1 divided by 2. For example, if n is equal to 10, like it was in the previous problem, 10 candidates, the first n becomes 10 times 10 minus 1 is 9, divide by 2. Always divide by 2. How much is that? That is 45. If you want to see why the formula comes out, ask me after class. We're not going to talk about it, but are there questions, Mary? Is that all right? Yeah. Any questions on using the formula? It shouldn't be clear to you why the formula is true, but if you want details, see me right after class. Good? Okay. So one question students sometimes have at this point is, okay, fine, so there are these different ways to count the votes, but it's so complicated, and how would you actually do this at the polls? How could you get it so that people rank, right? All we do right now is we just like punch a hole next to our favorite candidate, or circle our favorite candidate, or put an X next to our favorite candidate, or fill in a bubble next to our favorite candidate. But how would you rank them? Well, Burlington, Vermont, not too far north of us, actually did elect their mayor for a couple of terms using the plurality with elimination method. That's what we talked about today. And here's a scan of an actual ballot from back in 2006, and here's how they did it. You have all these candidates here. You have your first choice. Let's say I think Paula is the best, so we're going to vote for her second. And I think Jeff is really good too, so where do we put him? I'm going to put him second. And then after that, Michelle, she's great. And then Hugh up here in the 4th position. And it's really easy to do, right? I just want to put out there that there's no barrier set up in terms of being able to rank candidates. I know it's a very foreign concept given that you guys have grown up here where there's no ranking of candidates, but it's really easy to implement. And the fact that it's bubble sheets mean you can run it through a scanner and have the results calculated by the computer like that, okay? It's very easy to implement. That said, oh, and by the way, you don't need to vote for everybody. It says you can vote for as many or as few as you want. So if you really don't think that David is any good, don't even fill in 6 for him. Anybody you want, and you can leave blanks. So it's very easy to do. I will just put out there, Burlington used plurality with elimination for a couple of elections. They have more recently voted to go back to the straightforward plurality method. They clearly have not taken this class. We will talk about why that's a bad choice next class. But they voted to go back. I don't know how they voted. Okay, so that's what that looks like. All right, so there's a group activity coming up. We got something to do before we do the group activity. But even before we get there, I just want to highlight that I have made a mistake in the answer key. Problems 2C and 2D, the answer key, you don't need to go there right now, but the answer key is wrong. As you guys do the group activity, I will put up the corrected answer key on the board, all right? It's going to take you some time to get to 2C and 2D. But before you work on the group activity, you are going to spend a few minutes filling out your classmates' ballots. Chad, could you do me a favor and give one to everybody? And so let's be really clear about how we're supposed to fill these ballots